Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Professor Barry here, just providing you a little bit of background for the materials for this week. I do want to say before we get started, we have this week and one more week left in the term. So if you made it this far, thanks for all of your engagement, your involvement, your dedication to the class. There's so much to kind of work through, and part of the goal for the course is exposure to a lot of different areas addressing race, class, gender, sexual identity, different parts of the human experience. And really to kind of anchor into the sort of the model of the matrix of domination, as you can see, has been a theme throughout the course. It's a very useful model, an analytical model to be able to understand or to be able to examine privilege, domination, the relationship between the two, and then these different realms, right? The structural realm, the interpersonal realm, the hegemonic realm, and think about how inequality gets generated, reinforced, replicated over time, and all those different kind of elements. So hopefully you found the class so far just really rewarding and enriching and has added to your level of knowledge and understanding about these complex social issues, and it's given you motivation to explore further beyond this class. I think classes often do that. They did for me when I got exposed to information, became more and more curious. If you are struggling in the class or you're coming up near the end of the term, you're just trying to look at things and looking where you're at in the class and you want some more feedback, and you want to set up a Zoom meeting with me or stop by the office sometime, send me an email, and definitely we can make that happen. I'm here to help guide and support you in the class. Here's the options for the week. I mean, choose two of these podcasts to review. And just for same requirements as always, as far as the review goes. I'll give you one more option. If you want to choose another one that's not on here, look through Scholars Strategy Network, go to their website, click on that link, and you'll get to the website and find another topic that you are interested in, that you want to dive into to explore. You can also look at the new books network. Also extend that to the Ezra Klein show, as long as the content relates to race, class, gender, sexual identity, gender identity. If it's in those spaces, all is good. You don't need to get pre-approval from me. Do not go outside of these podcast sites. And not that there's not other ones that are valuable. It's just that I want to make sure that the podcasts you're listening to are more academically inclined and not podcasts that are coming from some spokesperson or individual who does not have academic credentials or is not providing an academic framework and understanding of these complex social issues. And again, not that that information is not valuable. I just want to make sure, since we are in an educational environment, that the content that we are working with fulfills sort of like, fits into that space of educational information versus opinion and examination that way. So let me just give you a little bit of background on each one of these so you can maybe inform your decision about which podcast to look at. So the first one is a really interesting podcast, a survey or surveys of millennials, college students. One question to raise is, predominantly probably middle class white students at a university college, and engaging with them, thinking about how they think about colorblind racism or think about racism in contemporary society. And it's really insightful because it gives us a perspective on white identity and particular aspects of white identity. I think you'll find it an interesting historical perspective about whiteness a little bit, also about the development of colorblind racism, and through interviews and discussions with millennials, identifying that individuals may claim that they are supportive of social justice and equity and greater racial equality, but yet don't understand racism and don't understand really structural dimensions. And so it's a value they're communicating, but not necessarily understanding the complexities of racism within society itself. It's almost like it's a virtue signal for some to signal that they are supportive of the value, but really don't are not committed to the investigation of it of racism within society itself. So that's really interesting. Hollywood's diversity problem, if you're interested in looking at a particular structure, Hollywood, and unpacking a little bit about representation, the production of film, including directors and actors, and that Hollywood continues, even though efforts within Hollywood to make changes that and changes have been made, that there's still a diversity issues going on within Hollywood, as within any institution, in that regard. Then Black Lives Matter, Police and American Democracy. That's another, but that Scholar Strategy Network is talking with policymakers, talking with academics, people who've invested time and research in looking at particular social issues, and then identifying, through research methods and application of methods, investigating a topic area and walking away with some better understanding and clearer understanding of issues that are going on. So looking at Black Lives Matter, looking at this sort of ideal culture, practice culture kind of component of what Black Lives Matter kind of informed us about what's about racial relations in the United States, but also the institution of law enforcement and thinking about the larger project of democracy. The idea of prison abolition, I think, is a really interesting one as well. There's oftentimes a misconception of what prison abolition means. Prison abolition is not the idea that, well, I guess in general, prison abolition would be a long-term project. And the general idea is that rather than only focusing on or primarily focusing on the social control or the incarceration or the processing through the criminal justice system of people who have been identified offenders, it's focused on the source of the problem. So if we have the crime that we have within our communities, the issues in our communities, to invest in resources to prevent versus to deal with the after consequences. So part of the logic and the philosophy of an abolitionist perspective is to address the underlying conditions themselves. So if you're interested in that topic area, I think you'll find that interesting. And when I stumbled across this last one, Ezra Klein show, Race, Policing, Universal Yearning of Safety, listened to that years ago. Thought it was really insightful. It's an academic who really wants to look at the data. Let's look at the data and understand how racial inequities can get reproduced, not at the individual officer level, but rather let's look at it in a more complex way. Look at it as structure, institution, environment. And this person who is being interviewed the focus is on data and understanding, and very thought-provoking to be able to examine how inequities can be reproduced in a very unconscious, institutional, structured way, and ways that we may not even that majority of individuals may not even be aware of because they get carried out at the day-to-day level of practice. So ultimately, hopefully you find these podcasts insightful, interesting, and valuable. I look forward to reading your write-ups. And once again, if you have any questions, let me know. And have a great day and have a great week.